Welcome to the 2021 CVSA Road Check. My name is Chuck Ross, and I will be your host today as we dive into the Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance Road Check, hosted by Vehicle Licensing Consultants. I'm going to go ahead and share it's a brief PowerPoint, but it is a PowerPoint at that. Let's see here. This year's CVSA Road Check is going to be May 4th through 6th. And before we get started into this too far, here are a few nuts and bolts about today's session. Comments and questions can be posted to the discussion board. Emily Buchanan, the force behind today's session, will be monitoring to make sure that all questions get addressed. Both Barry Oberg and Jade Johnson will be available at the end of our presentations to answer questions. Because of the format that we're using, we are asking that you save your questions until that time. Unfortunately, Christian Hawley from Murdoch Logistics will not be available to answer questions today. While our speakers are presenting, feel free to leave comments in the chat section. To get there, just click on the chat icon at the bottom of your screen. It's probably somewhere down there. All right. So really quick, who's VLC? Well, we at VLC operate with a single purpose: to provide driver and fleet solutions for our clients. We offer registration service packages that include interstate services for both IRP and IFTA programs. Our TripDog department focuses on telematics. We offer sales and support of Geotab and SurfSite units. But to help keep drivers and trucks on the road, we also support DriveWise bypass technology and predictive maintenance solutions. Perhaps what sets us apart from many other reg services is our dedication to using software as a service for our customers. Our new driver qualification management software, DQM, is user-friendly for both companies and their drivers. As an added bonus, it also has a robust asset management component. So feel free to contact us if you feel we could be of service to your company. Part of our commitment to the trucking industry includes informational days like today's CVSA Road Check. So let's get started. We're going to be covering several topics, and we're going to kick things off with former officer Jade Johnson. Jay served 30 years as a police officer with the Milpitas Police Department. His duties included patrol, field training officer, canine handler, personnel and training, and commercial enforcement officer. Jay's going to talk to us a bit about the focus and depth of this year's CVSA Road Check and what it means for you.
Well, good morning. My name is Jay Johnson. I am a commercial vehicle safety consultant located in Gilroy, California. Just a little bit about my background. I have now about a 40-year history in regulatory compliance and enforcement. I actually have seat time as a commercial driver. I used to have a Class A license, hauling containers out of Oakland and San Francisco. From there, moved into law enforcement, spent the next 30 years of my career as a police officer for a Bay Area law enforcement agency. And during that time period, I became designated as a commercial enforcement officer. Retired from law enforcement in 2010, partnered with a good friend and set up Jay Johnson and Associates as commercial vehicle safety consultants. And we've now been in existence for 11 years. And during that time, I had the privilege of partnering with VLC, working with them as far as their compliance aspects of their services to the industry. So that is my, the snapshot background of my experience. So one of the questions that has been asked is, what is the annual CVSA Road Check? Road Check is an annual program that the Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance, or CVSA, produces. And this is a time of year that they actually target a couple of very specific violations throughout the nation. And for those of you that don't know, the Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance, or CVSA, is a consortium of industry as well as law enforcement agencies, and it is their effort to establish consistency throughout the nation, Canada and Mexico, on how roadside inspections are conducted by law enforcement on industry's vehicles. So during this targeted time, which is May 4th to May 6th, they have designated hours of service and lighting as the two target areas they're keeping statistics on. So what they're not increasing enforcement, or they're not casting a wider net, so to speak, as far as the details that they're reviewing. But it was described to me by the CHP that I contacted as more of a effort to collect specific statistics. So to do that, what should a driver expect? Well, if you are subscribing to a pre-pass or one of those systems that allow you to bypass the scale, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to turn that off, so that they're going to try to get everybody through that they can possibly get through. The inspection will be your typical level 1 inspection. And we can certainly make arrangements for information on what a level 1 inspection is. And then the biggest thing is collection of statistics, and then reporting those statistics to CVSA as far as the number of inspections performed, and then the number of violations that have been captured during that inspection period. So it's a snapshot in time of the state of the industry, so to speak. Then what they'll be doing is targeting hours of service, and as far as hours of service are concerned, one of the target points is going to be the ELDs. For lighting, it's going to be general lighting requirements. So moving a little deeper into it, what can carriers do to ensure that they're ready? Well, some of the violations that I see most frequently when looking at your CSA SMS scores are some very simple things you can do to prepare yourself. Number one, make sure that you have an instructions on the inspection sheet. Just make sure that your drivers know how to operate their ELD system, something as simple as that. Believe it or not, Title 49 Code of Federal Regulations requires that you provide instruction, that you make sure that you train your drivers on how to physically operate the system, and that they're operating it correctly. Those same regulations also ensure that you go in and you check the back office and you audit and evaluate how your drivers are using their system making sure that things are being recorded correctly. Those are just some very simple mandates, and it makes sense. You wouldn't send your truck driver out not knowing how to drive his truck. So you want to make sure that you send your truck driver out knowing how to operate his ELD, which is as much part of that truck now as the brakes are. So along with that, they'll be looking for those instructions on how to do an inspection. And some of the faults that they'll frequently discover is the unassigned driver time. So how can you do that? Well, if your drivers are using them correctly, they're going to punch the little button on the screen and they're going to put it into the correct mode. And that be coming from off duty to driving, or driving to on duty, not driving, as you get to a fuel stop or perform some other work related task that the time needs to be collected. Going to personal conveyance. If your company allows you to utilize a personal conveyance option, then you have to place your ELD into that mode. And if you don't take the affirmative action to do that, you're going to get an unassigned driver time, or it's going to be recorded incorrectly, and that's going to count against you. Malfunction. How do you deal with a malfunction? Well, one of the things that, believe it or not, I have seen time and again as a failure on a roadside inspection is something as simple as not having the 8 pages of a blank logbook in the glove box of the truck. And that in and itself is a recorded violation against your hours of service. A simple way to deal with that is go to the truck stop, buy a packet of 30 loose leaf logbook pages, take that 30 pages, divide them up between 2 or 3 trucks, and you've got 8 pages in the glove box of the truck, for just a few dollars. And that few dollars is going to save you on your CSA scores. So talking a little bit about CSA scores for just a second. So every time you go through a roadside inspection and the law enforcement agency writes up that inspection report, that report is transmitted to the FMCSA. And that score then is how governmental agencies as well as your clients evaluate the performance of your company. They've established some threshold scores depending on the type of carrier you are. And those threshold scores are also used by local law enforcement agencies to target you. And I say target because you might wind up making it to a list for the local state inspections. Drilling down a little deeper, January of 2016, California converted its California-based BIT program, or Basic Inspection of Terminal, which used to be known as the Biennial Inspection of Terminal, became the Basic Inspection of Terminal, is totally performance-based on that CSA score. If you go beyond one of the established basic thresholds, then that list goes to Sacramento's CHP office, and it is redistributed throughout the state to the divisions, and you're going to get a motor carrier specialist knocking at your door for a terminal inspection. And so the simple strategy, and something that I find very few carriers do, log into the system with your PIN number and look at your threshold score. you have absolute control over that information based on your CSA scores and inspections. So how can you best prepare overall? Do a proper pre-trip inspection. Something is you're required to do anyway is arrange for that pre-trip inspection, do it correctly, do it completely, and make sure that you're looking for these points. Do all of the lights work? Yes, a light bulb can burn out en route, but there's no reason why you shouldn't take the 15 minutes before you get behind the wheel and do a competent inspection, follow all the points, and then that becomes your foundation for your inspection and passing through a roadside inspection. So that's it in a nutshell.
If you can speak on maybe ELD placement, where it should be in an individual's truck and how that can affect a violation.
Sure. The ELD requirements explicitly state that the ELD display must be mounted in view of the driver. That's number one. Common sense will also dictate that if you use that same device to control other functions, such as a in-cab recording camera, there are systems out there that have an emergency button on them that will immediately start recording an incident. You probably want to have that within arm's reach in addition to within view. You have to be able to then somehow hand that ELD display device to the inspector. They're not going to get into your vehicle. So locking it into a mount on the dash and then requiring the inspector to stand on your running board or fuel tank to get a view of it is probably not going to be a good decision for it.
All right. I'm not sure if we got that last part right there, but thanks so much, Jay, for giving us such an in-depth look at this year's CVSA Road Check. Next up is our very own Barry Oberg. He's going to walk us through DVIRs, preventative and predictive maintenance, and some considerations on choosing an ELD that will fit your needs.
Hi, I'm Barry with Vehicle Licensing Consultants, Trip Dog. I'm very fortunate to have the opportunity to share lots of stories and experiences.
There we go. All right. We can watch Barry now. Here we go.
This is from our customers as well as some DOT officers that we want to share with you today to help you minimize your risk at the roadside inspections that are expected here in May 4th through 6th, as well as any other roadside inspections. So with further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get started with our little presentation, and I'm hoping that you'll find some points that will be helpful to you. First of all, drivers, you need to do your DVIRs, and you need to do them thoroughly. There's two types of DVIRs. There's a pre-trip, which is more of a visual inspection. The reason I call it more of a visual inspection, because you're not sure how that vehicle was driven yesterday unless you were the driver that drove it yesterday. So the visual inspection includes looking at any notes that the previous driver may have had. So you're certifying their yesterday's post inspection, as well as now inspecting the vehicle from your eyes, checking the tires, checking for any oil leaks that may have happened occur, making sure all those lights are working. And then, of course, checking the oil and things like that is always good habits. The second is the post-trip. The post-trip is really about the vehicle's drivability. It's your opportunity as a driver to share with mechanics, with the future drivers of that vehicle. And it's your responsibility to share how that vehicle was driving. You can focus on the steering, the brakes, the suspension, the engine. Really, how is that vehicle performing for you? You know, meeting with the DOT officers, they really broke it down to 4 real key areas of safety: lights, steering, brakes, and horn. Now, I'm not saying that they don't care about all the other stuff, which they do, but those are the 4 key areas. Lights. Did you know that 85% of all level 1 inspections start because they're of an out tail light of some sort, or headlight, or any kind of light? So remember that. That's some real good opportunities by doing a vehicle inspection and checking those lights can avoid some of those uninspected inspections. Important considerations. Take the appropriate time to do a thorough DVIR. Trucks should take anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes. Tractor trailers, 30 to 45 minutes. Remember, when you sign off on a DVIR, you're certifying that that vehicle is safe to drive. Pay special attention after a mechanic's 90-day inspection. You would think that would be opposite, right? You would think, hey, my mechanic just looked at it, it should be great. No, this is your opportunity to provide great feedback to your mechanic, making sure that they're doing their job correctly. You're holding them accountable. Think of it as on the time when you take your vehicle in. When's the most time that you actually take a look under that hood? It's right after it comes back from the mechanic. Why? Because you're protecting your investment. Same goes true with driving a truck. Whether it's your truck or not your truck, that's the time to make sure that that's the best inspection. Driver's communication to maintenance team, very important. There needs to be a very close and trusted relationship between a driver and his maintenance team. The driver needs to know that if I put something on my DVIR, that the mechanic is going to take care of that in a timely manner. The mechanic needs the driver, if they find an issue with their truck, is to make sure they have plenty of time and plenty of notes and pictures or whatever else you can help the mechanic help locate and fix the problem in a very efficient manner. Communication is key. Okay, so what else is important? Preventative maintenance, obviously, or maintenance in general, and how that's being managed. Preventative maintenance, 90-day mechanic inspections, the annual inspection. During these inspections, we recommend that the mechanic potentially does a steam clean if it needs it. You know, a clean engine is a happy engine, and if a DOT officer is inspecting your engine, if they see it nice and clean, they know that you're taking care of that vehicle. Go the extra mile, spend a little extra money, get that engine steam clean and looking good for you. Driver feedback. Once again, it goes into communication. If that vehicle is going into preventative maintenance, that driver provides any kind of details or any kind of knowledge that mechanic can have to make sure that they're doing a thorough safety inspection on that vehicle. And how do you manage this stuff? With a maintenance management solution. Zindu Maintenance is definitely one. There's several others that are out there for you. But having a electronic maintenance management is very, very important to being able to stay on schedule and being effective. Secondly, there's the unscheduled maintenance. Ideally, if the mechanics are doing a great job in their 90 days, It should minimize how much unscheduled maintenance there is. But will be some. They're caught either by a DVIR from the driver's communication. It can also be caught with our remote engine diagnostics. Or you can have roadside towing event, which obviously I think we'll all try to avoid that. If you're having a few of those, perhaps you take a look at predictive solutions like Optimum Fleet Health. They actually can predict with 95% accuracy that your truck is going to break down within a 2-week period of time and avoid those roadside towing events that come next. So, ELDs and choosing your right partner as an ELD provider. Well, we choose Geotab, not just because they have a great ELD, because it does so much more than just an ELD. If you focus just on the ELD, you want to make sure that the device is FMCSA compliant. There are some big brand names out there that are struggling with this FMCSA compliance, believe it or not. So make sure that yours is. Make sure that your system is secure and that they're not having data breaches. Data breaches do happen. They don't happen with Geotab, but they do happen with other providers in the marketplace and some big name ones, to say the least. When you're looking at the ELD, look at it from the admin perspective as well as the driver perspective. From the admin perspective, you want to have some very good reports that will help you manage your driver's hours of service and making sure that everybody stays in compliance. What we feel is most important is to take a look at the overall return on investment of your ELD. Nobody likes it. Nobody likes to be forced to adapt to new technology and be told what they need to be doing. But the ELD mandate did happen. It did take place. But now it's for us to see what we can do to help you maximize your return on investment.
All right, thanks, Barry. That's great information, especially that last piece about Geotab and how it functions in today's technological environment. Our last guest today is Christian Hawley from Murdoch Logistics. Murdoch Logistics does a great job using Geotab to its fullest capacity. So let's join Emily and Christian as we explore what Geotab has done for Murdoch.
So I'm Christian Hawley, VP of Safety and Compliance for Murdoch Logistics. Definitely don't let that title fool you, though. We're a pretty small team, so we kind of all have our hands in everything. But I'm definitely helping to oversee everything safety and compliance related, with an emphasis on hours of service, safe driving, all those types of things. ELD is obviously a very important part of that to make sure our guys are always routinely in compliance. So really a little bit of everything that I'm into.
So I'm sure you come across a lot of pain points with the compliance aspect. What are some of the frequent things that you run into, and how do you try to best address them?
Some of our bigger issues would just be, hours of service in general, just making sure we don't have compliance issues. And a lot of times that's drivers that are out there for pretty long days and maybe just lose track of what they're doing and forget, like, hey, maybe they go past their 14 hours or they forget about the 34-hour reset on their day off. Maybe they get off too late and then start too early. And those do occasionally come up and bite us. So that's where, again, having the ELD and making sure that we're using it properly definitely helps, and proper reporting. The other pain point has just been equipment related. So making sure that our trucks and all of our equipment is up to par, especially when it's getting stopped at scales and all those types of things, that if there are issues, the drivers are putting that down in the pre and post trip DVIR, and we're able to evaluate and get those things fixed before they become problems. So that's probably the two biggest issues.
So how do you ensure that your drivers, are keeping their logs or doing their DVIRs and, making sure that they're doing their part for the compliance of your company as well? Is there anything special that you do?
So we have a daily audit process that we in the office go through, and it's the only way to make sure that they're going to do it, because again, the drivers are out there busting their butt all day, and sometimes they can forget things, and we understand that, and so we try to have their backs. So we'll go through and we make sure every single day, hey, in the morning, they've completed their pre-trip inspection and they're actually on and using the ELD in an on-duty or driving status. We go through and make sure that they're not in violation or they don't have any violations kind of coming up. And then we'll also go through at the end of the route to make sure that they've actually done their post-trip inspection as well, because that's the first step. The drivers are the ones that are out there seeing it, and if we can't get that information from them, then we're in a bad space. So
perfect. And then you recently switched to GeoTab from a different ELD provider. Have you seen a increase in, the production of, your business, helping you maintain compliance? I mean, what are some things that you like about GeoTab, and how do you use it for your specific industry?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that have helped us a lot. Honestly, probably the biggest two areas of improvement would just be a big reduction in hours of service issues, whether or not those were actual issues or just a driver forgets to log off or whatever it might be, which is probably 99% of the stuff that happens. And we're just very easily able to go through and fix that, or the driver can go fix that. So it's very easy to generate those reports and email that to the drivers. Also, a lot of the training materials, there's so many videos within the TripDog library that we can send out, like, hey, this is exactly how you do this process. And for us, we're a decentralized fleet. Our drivers report to different locations. We don't see them every day. So training and compliance can be a nightmare if you don't have those type of resources. So I would say that's been huge. Also from a maintenance aspect, just getting, what I like is if they put something on the DVIR as an issue with the truck, that it automatically generates a work order. That's been huge for us. And we didn't realize that at first. So we were actually into it a few weeks. Went in and checked the work orders, and there was like 55 work orders for our trucks, which is a lot. But what's nice is we built that into basically our daily and morning meetings, where that's the first thing we do. What are the open work orders? What's our plan to get them fixed as soon as possible? It just really streamlines that process. So.
Great. I'm glad that, the switch has really helped you guys a lot. Us as a company, we really stand by GeoTab, and that's why we're resellers, and we want the best for our clients as well. So I'm really glad to hear that, that switch has helped a lot with your compliance, with your everyday, meetings, and working that in as well. So you kind of touched on a lot of the things that I already had planned to ask you, but what are some of the best habits that you have learned over the years that you'd like to share?
I think for us, it's just trying to really make things as fun as possible for the drivers. Now, sometimes ELD isn't thought of necessarily as something that's fun. Same with pre and post trip inspections. But what we've done is we do have a couple of things. We actually have a driver power ranking that actually takes a lot of different things into account every single day based off our daily audits. So are the drivers actually doing their pre and post trip? Are they using their ELD, not having violations, all those types of things? And at the end of the month, basically generates a score. And then the top drivers, we celebrate them. We give them actual bonuses, all kinds of stuff to make it fun. So it kind of makes safety fun from that aspect. And then also within GeoTab, there's the Zendu safety score, which actually automatically generates a safe driving score for each driver based off of a bunch of different criteria. For us, we go off seatbelt usage, speeding, and harsh driving. And that's been a big win for us as well. Because again, we can't be everywhere and see everything. And so it just kind of helps to get that information back. And the other thing would just be to make sure that we try to be make sure that we understand all the processes on the manager side of the business, but it's actually more important that the drivers are experts in hours of service, ELD, safety, all that type of stuff. Because if they're not, you're going to spend all your time going through and trying to fix issues within their ELD, or worst case, working with the FMCSA on the audits that they're going to come do on you. So the drivers have to be experts and execute.
Right. And I mean, if they get pulled over, they're the ones who are being, at the scales every day. They need to know, how to read their logs, how to transfer it to the officer, and be able to explain any kind of discrepancies. So that's great that you guys are really making sure that the drivers are doing their part. So that's awesome. Well, we'll keep it short, simple. That was really great. Thank you so much for all of that. And did you have anything else to add before we kind of?
The only thing I was kind of, thinking through ever since we switched to GeoTab from our previous ELD provider, I'm not going to name names, but just kind of what are the differences? And obviously, I think GeoTab is a superior product, but really the biggest thing that we've noticed is just the people side of it. We've been really impressed with. And so from the onboarding aspect and just people with GeoTab Trip Dog checking in on a routine basis, I know Ryan Teresi has been working in close contact with us. I mean, we are in contact constantly. We were having weekly meetings and everything. It got to a point where I was like, Ryan, I think we pretty much know everything. He's like, yeah, you guys are experts now. And he'll still check in from time to time. So it's just been great working with GeoTab. And to me, that's a big part of it. There's always going to be issues here and there, with no matter who and what type of ELD you're using. But the fact that I can call and talk to a person that I actually have a relationship with is critical to me. So.
All right. It's great to hear from somebody inside of the industry who is actively using GeoTab. So thank you so much to Christian Hawley for sharing some time with us. Before we head to our questions section, here's a brief to-do list for you. I'm going to, again, share my PowerPoint.